June 2003, the Meridian Grand Hotel, Beverly Hills, California. One of the most exclusive boutique properties in the city, designed to look like a European manor house transplanted to California sunshine, with marble floors reflecting crystal chandeliers, velvet furniture arranged with the precise care of rooms that understood their own elegance, and a front desk staffed by people trained to make every guest feel as though the hotel had been waiting specifically for them. It was a Thursday afternoon. The lobby held perhaps 15 people, some in velvet chairs, others near the concierge desk, a couple who had just arrived from the parking garage. The air carried the specific scent of expensive hotels: fresh flowers, clean linen, the subtle fragrance of a place that charged enough per night to make such details possible. At 4 o'clock, a pickup truck pulled into the parking structure. A man got out, dark canvas jacket over a simple shirt, worn jeans, silver white hair slightly windswept from the drive up from Carmel. He carried a single overnight bag and walked through the lobby doors with the unhurried ease of someone who had been in a great many rooms and had long since stopped being impressed by any of them. He approached the front desk, set his driver's license and credit card on the marble surface. Checking in, reservation under Eastwood. What happened in the next 11 minutes would change one young woman's life permanently and remind everyone in that lobby of something that expensive hotels sometimes forget: that the most important thing a person carries through a door has nothing to do with what they're wearing when they carry it. Ashley Reynolds was 26 years old and had been working the front desk of the Meridian Grand for 8 months. She had come to Los Angeles with the dream that brings thousands of young people to that city every year. She wanted to act. While she waited for auditions to accumulate into something, she paid rent by working the front desk of a hotel that catered to entertainment executives and old money that had learned to dress like old money. Her manager had explained that part of her role was managing guest expectations, which sometimes meant, delicately, steering people who had wandered in without understanding what they had wandered into toward options more suited to their situation. She had done this before. She was good at it. When the man in the canvas jacket set his license on her desk, she typed his name into the system, saw the reservation, 2 nights, standard room, and looked at him again. The jacket, the jeans, the single small bag, the face of an elderly man who had driven himself here in a pickup truck. She made a decision. "Mr. Eastwood," she said, with the careful warmth of someone about to say something difficult, "before we proceed, I should let you know, this is a luxury property. Standard rooms start at $450 per night, not including taxes and fees. I want to make sure there are no surprises." "I made a reservation," he said. "The rate was listed when I booked." "Of course, but sometimes our online booking can be confusing. With 2 nights, you're looking at over $1,000 total." The lobby, which had been conducting its own quiet business, began very slowly, in the way that rooms do when something shifts, to pay attention. "There are some excellent options nearby," Ashley continued. "A Holiday Inn about 2 miles from here. Very nice, much more affordable. Probably around $150 per night. That might be a better fit." Clint Eastwood said nothing for a moment. The silence had a quality that people who subsequently described the scene struggled to articulate. Not hostile. Not the silence of someone preparing an argument. The silence of someone listening to a sentence finish, absorbing its full meaning, and deciding what to do with it. "What makes you think I need a better fit?" he asked. Ashley's face moved in the way faces move when someone realizes they have walked further down a road than intended. "I'm just making sure you're informed about our rates." "Because of how I'm dressed?" "Sir, I'm not making any judgments. I'm simply doing my job." In the lobby, a man set his phone face down on his knee. A woman near the elevator turned her body toward the desk. The concierge had become very still. Clint slid his credit card toward the center of the desk. "Check me in, please. I understand the rates. I can afford the stay. I have a reservation." Ashley looked at the screen, looked at him, and made one more attempt. The specific error of someone who has committed to a path and cannot locate the exit. "Mr. Eastwood, I really think—" "Check me in." The lobby had gone quiet in the specific way that rooms go quiet when 15 people have simultaneously decided that whatever they were doing before is less important than what is happening now. Ashley's hands, slightly less steady than before, began the check-in process. She typed his name into the guest information field. Clint Eastwood, hit enter, and stopped. The screen populated with information she had not expected and would not, for the rest of her life, forget. VIP Gold Elite member since 2001. Total lifetime stays, 127 nights. Preferred guest rate program participant. Special notation, hotel ownership group investor. Notify general manager immediately upon arrival. Ashley stared at the screen. Her hands stopped moving entirely. Her mouth opened. The small, involuntary opening of a face receiving information that contradicts something it has just spent 4 minutes confidently asserting. The marble desk, the crystal chandelier overhead, the velvet chairs, the potted palms, the lobby that the man standing across from her had been part owner of for 2 years before she had arrived in Los Angeles with her headshots, me and her audition schedule. She had told the co-owner of the building he might want to consider the Holiday Inn. She became aware that Clint Eastwood was watching her read the screen, watching her understand, watching the distance between what she had assumed and what was true measure itself across her face in real time. In his office at the back of the hotel, General Manager David Chen had been reviewing paperwork when his computer chimed with an automatic notification. He looked at the alert, looked at the security camera feed for the front desk, saw Ashley frozen at her computer, saw Clint, saw 15 people in the lobby, all watching, and stood up immediately. David Chen arrived at the front desk, slightly out of breath. "Mr. Eastwood, welcome back. I apologize. I didn't know you were checking in today, or I would have been here personally." The lobby was now completely, unambiguously silent. 15 people. Not a phone being scrolled. Not a private conversation continuing. Clint gestured toward Ashley. "Your desk clerk was concerned I might not be able to afford to stay here." David's face went through the same transformation Ashley's had. "I'm sorry, what?" "She suggested the Holiday Inn might be a better fit. More in my price range." David turned to Ashley with the controlled slowness of someone who needs a moment before he speaks. "Ashley, did you suggest that Mr. Eastwood, one of our most valued guests and an investor in this property, should stay at a Holiday Inn?" Ashley could not speak. She stood holding Clint's driver's license with the expression of someone who has just understood, completely and without the possibility of revision, the full dimensions of what they have done. "She was doing what she thought was her job," Clint said before David could continue. 15 people who had been watching a confrontation were now watching something they had not anticipated. The person who had been wronged, defending the person who had wronged him. "She was managing guest expectations," Clint said, "making sure people understand what they're getting into. That's not unreasonable." A pause. The unreasonable thing was the basis for the judgment. He looked at Ashley directly. Not with satisfaction, not with the performance of magnanimity, simply looked at her with the same steady attention he had maintained since the moment he walked through the door. "You told me about Holiday Inns and better fits because you looked at me and made a decision. Jeans, old jacket, no designer labels, pickup truck, elderly man traveling alone." He let that sit for a moment. "Every external factor told you one thing. None of it told you anything true." Ashley had tears on her face. She was not making a sound. "I'm sorry," she said. "I didn't recognize you. I thought—" "Say what you thought." She looked at him. "I thought you couldn't afford it." "And now? Now I know I was wrong." "You were wrong the moment you thought it," Clint said. "Not because of who I turned out to be, but because of who everyone who walks through that door deserves to be treated as, before you know anything about them." He picked up his credit card from the desk. "Don't apologize for thinking it," he said quietly. "Apologize for acting on it. Everyone makes assumptions. The question is whether you let those assumptions determine how you treat people." He looked at David. "I'd like to check in now. It's been a long drive." The second desk clerk came forward and began the check-in process with the careful speed of someone who understands that efficiency is now the most valuable contribution they can make. "Room 412, top floor, corner room." His preferred configuration, the system noted, from 127 previous stays. Clint picked up his overnight bag. The bag that Ashley now understood, looking at it for the first time with accurate eyes, was an expensive piece of leather luggage she had somehow processed as nothing during the 4 minutes she had spent explaining why a Holiday Inn might suit its owner better. He turned toward the elevator, stopped once at the edge of the lobby, turned back, not to the desk, not to David, to the 15 people who had watched all of this and were still watching. Every person who walks through a door has a whole life you know nothing about, he said, to no one in particular and to all of them at once. Try to remember that before you decide what they can and can't afford. The elevator doors opened. Clint walked in. The doors closed. The lobby remained silent for 3 full seconds. Then slowly, conversation resumed. But everyone was having the same conversation. David took Ashley to his office. She walked with the gait of someone not entirely sure their legs will cooperate. She expected to be fired. David sat across from her and was quiet for a moment, composing what he needed to say from the competing elements of institutional responsibility, genuine human concern, and the memory of watching a man defend the person who had just tried to redirect him to a budget hotel. "You're not being terminated," he said. Ashley looked at him. What Mr. Eastwood said was accurate. You were doing what you understood your job to require. The problem is what you used to make the judgment. Clothing, age, transportation, everything external. Nothing that told you anything real. He leaned forward. If Clint Eastwood can walk into a hotel he has invested in, stayed in 127 times, and be told the Holiday Inn might be a better fit based on his jacket, then our judgment system is broken. Not just yours. Ours. Ashley was quiet. You're on probation, and you'll undergo additional training, but you're staying because the man you made that mistake toward asked me to let you stay. She sat with that for a long time after she left the office. The weight of a grace she had not earned, extended by the person she had least deserved it from. By the time Clint checked out 2 days later, the story had left the building, not through social media campaigns or press releases. The way stories travel that belong to everyone who witnessed them, person to person, with the urgency of people conveying something important. The man who had been scrolling his phone told his wife at dinner. The woman near the elevator told 3 colleagues the next morning. The couple from the parking garage mentioned it that weekend, each telling slightly different in its details. Identical in its shape, an old man in a canvas jacket had been told he didn't belong in a hotel he owned. And instead of destroying the person who told him that, he had given her the most valuable thing he could: attention, honesty, and the specific respect of being held accountable without being discarded. The Meridian Grand instituted new staff training within the month. David Chen presented the situation as a case study in the gap between institutional training and genuine hospitality. If a guest can be assessed as unable to afford our hotel based on their clothing, he told his staff, our assessment system has failed. We are in the business of serving people, not outfits. The training room did not have Clint Eastwood's name on the wall, but everyone on the staff knew the story, and knowing it changed the way they looked at the door every time it opened. Journalists asked about her early years. She told the story. Not as a celebrity encounter, not as a funny anecdote, as a lesson about the things she had almost learned too late. I looked at an elderly man in a canvas jacket, she said in one such interview, and decided in 3 seconds that I understood his entire life, his resources, his worth, his place in the world. All of that from his clothes and his truck. A pause. I was wrong about every single thing, and I was wrong before I ever knew who he was. That's the part I needed to understand. Not that I misjudged a famous person, that I misjudged a person. Clint Eastwood continued to stay at the Meridian Grand when work brought him to Los Angeles, continued to arrive in his pickup truck, in his canvas jacket, carrying his single overnight bag, continued to check in under his own name, without announcement, without entourage. He checked in as himself, as he always had, as he had every one of the 127 nights before the Thursday in June, when a 26-year-old desk clerk looked at him and saw everything except who he was. The most expensive room in any building is not the penthouse suite, It is the assumption you make about someone in the 3 seconds before you know anything true about them. That room, once you have moved into it, is very expensive to leave. Clint Eastwood checked out. Ashley Reynolds did too, just later and from somewhere harder to exit, and with considerably more help than she had any right to expect.